Today we're going to talk about the expiration dates of things. If you'll notice, there were no ads ahead of this on YouTube because they demonetized my channel. So you can go to mushroomvoice.com, that's my store, and you can get handmade products made by me, or you can buy my book, Dosing Amanita Muscaria and What to Expect. You can also get involved by going to amanitadreamer.net, and you can check out the events tab. And I do online classes, and you can take the dosing class, or you can take the ritual class. You can just see what classes are there. So let's talk about expiration dates. So first, let's talk about when you get them raw, pick them, forage them, how long will they stay good? So it depends on if they have flies or larvae or any kind of worms, stuff like that in them. Mostly they'll be okay sitting out overnight. They do way better in the refrigerator while you're trying to get them into the dehydrator. If you want to talk about drying, I have videos on drying. YouTube won't allow them to be here. So they're at amanitadreamer.net, and just go to the drying playlist. How long do they last after you've dried them? It depends on how you store them, and the biggest enemy to them is taking on water or exposure to oxygen. And I have videos also on storage. So please do that to maximize how long they're going to be good for. Go watch that playlist, amanitadreamer.net, drying and storing. Make sure that you're storing them properly so that you can maximize that. So if you're storing them in an airtight jar and they're not in sunlight, then they should last 9 months from when they were foraged out of the ground, which around the world on the northern hemisphere is going to be in the fall. So they first start coming up out around late August, September, most of October. By then, most of the places that have their biggest fruitings are done. And then the data shows that after about 9 months, then the actives start to drop off pretty sharply. So sometime around June, July is when you'll notice that the same way that you're making them, they're just a whole lot weaker. And that's when I start doubling up on all of my recipes and adding more amanitas than I usually do. Let's talk about the tea. When you use my tea recipe, which is at amanitadreamer.net, YouTube took that video down and won't let me show you that. Yes, I am aware that other people can have videos about this sort of thing. I cannot. If you want to see videos about why, then you can go to the playlist tab on my channel and go to the politics tab. Learn all you want. So when I make the tea recipe, I tell you to freeze 3/4 of it and then get 1/4 of it and leave it out in the fridge. So about a week, I guess, is how long I notice that mine is good. But you'll notice they don't go bad. It's really cool. The tea just starts to not have a smell, and it's not tasteless, but you can tell it's thin and watery and just sort of empty, which is kind of cool. And sometimes you'll notice that there's like a mother in it, like this cloud that has formed in it. That is either sugars, which is a possibility, more of a possibility if you've put lemon in it, which I tell you not to do, or it is a bacterial mother that's supposed to be there that, according to my hypothesis, there are potentially bacteria that live on this mushroom the same way that bacteria live on ginger. It's just this hypothesis I've got, because a lot of the time there is sort of this healthy kind of collection that forms in my tea. You shake it up and it goes away the same way that sugars would, or that a mother would in a fermentation. So you'll notice that. I think it's fine. It doesn't smell bad. It just smells like mushroom and it tastes like tea. And then over time, the longest I've had mine last is about 10 days before it just gets kind of thin and watery and just quits having a smell and then doesn't feel active to me. If you want to know where I get my numbers and my research, amanitadreamer.net, and then just go to the research tab and I have all my research and citations. Let's talk about powder. I really don't like powdering them because those actives are in the top of the cap, and when you dry it, you sort of seal those actives in and sort of suspend them in time. But once you powder it and break it up like that, you rapidly speed up how quickly those actives are going to break down. I would venture to guess maybe 6 weeks, maybe 2 months. That's why my smoke blends that I sell that have powdered amanita, I only powder the amanita, I grind it up as I'm making them. And I only make enough to barely keep enough on hand because they sell so quickly. I want them out the door. I don't want them sitting around and going bad. So I'm real particular about making powder. I want to make sure I'm going to use it up. Let's talk about the oils. So if you make a pain oil recipe, like the Russian recipe that I make and sell in my store for Panther or Muscarias, then I've noticed it's kind of similar, except maybe a little longer than the dried version, just dried caps. To me, they last a little longer. So what I do is if it's getting to be like May, then I'll just start cramming a bunch of Amanitas in a jar and just shoving them in there and making oil extractions. It sort of suspends it in time and lasts a lot longer. I have had, like in periods where I didn't have pain and I didn't need my Pantherina oil, I left it sitting on my bedside table for as much as 6 months and used it and it worked. But one that I had in a travel bag that I forgot about, that was like a year and a half, it was empty. There was nothing in it. So I'm going with at least a year that the oil recipe, the oil extractions are good for. When I have then used those oil extractions in the products that I make, like my magic cream and my super sleep cream, stuff like that, that stuff feels like it just lasts indefinitely, because I think that's like just another level of suspending those fat soluble in another layer of a fat and sort of locking it down when it dries and turns into a solid. So there's no exact science on this. I don't know. I'm just telling you what I notice. I'm not going to make statements about the commercial products on the market. I'm working on my own commercial products. I don't want to make comments about the stuff that's out there. I will once I make my own and I get my own on the market. I will talk about and do like reviews of all of them. But when I say gummies, I'm talking about my recipe on amanitadreamer.net for making your own. Those in the freezer, if I stick mine in the freezer, they, to me, seem to last about 8 or 9 months. The ones that I put in the refrigerator seem to last about 6 months. At room temperature, they get kind of melty and kind of go off after a couple of months. I have had some in the freezer for a year and a half, and I used them and they still had actives. It still worked. They just weren't as strong. You know what I mean? Of course, if you have access to a freezer, and I know if you're in Europe, you either don't or yours is really, really small, and so you're trying to conserve space. And if you're, living out of a van and traveling and that kind of thing and hiking, I realize that may not be an option, but it's still always going to be the better option to freeze whatever it is you've got. So if you have also experimented with any of these different products, things that you've made, and see, do you agree with me or not? And put it in the comment section so other people can learn. We're just trying to aggregate this information the best that we can. And if you want to talk about any of this stuff in the community at mushroomvoice.com, it's $20 a month, and you can just come hang out with us and create connection and community with other people that are using Amanita Muscaria. And we're all using it for different reasons. And we talk about all the different reasons, and anything that you want to talk about how you're using it and how it's helping you is open for discussion. And I think you'll find some really good camaraderie there, friends and other people, so you don't feel like you're the only weirdo or you're the only one coming off this particular thing or dealing with this particular body issue or this particular mental health issue. There'll be other people there that you can talk to that are doing the same thing. I hope I see you soon. I love you, beautiful people.